Alright guys, welcome back again to more Misericorde. Here's some classical stuff. Greek plays and so on, and histories. That was all Catherine's department, make no mistake. Actually, she gestured idly around us with one arm. Most of this place was, she read everything in here at least once, I'd imagine. Wow, that's impressive. Well, I've read all of it twice or more, but yes, it is fairly impressive. What's in there? I pointed at a door off to one side of the room, nestled between messy shelves. That's the other half of my job. She produced a ring of keys and inserted one into the door, fiddling with it for a moment before unlocking it with a loud clunk. Inside was another storage room of sorts, only instead of books, it was filled with boxes, chests, and what could only be described as a hoard of miscellanea. This is where we keep some of the Abbey's more notable possessions. We've got some relics. You have relics here? Excuse me. Steady on. Nothing particularly interesting. I'm actually not sure how many of them are real. Oh. It's a bit of a racket, relics. You wouldn't believe how many people claim they have the Holy Prepus in a vault somewhere. The Holy... It's best you don't ask. The point is, if you took every piece of the true cross on display around the world and put them together, it'd be taller than the Tower of London. And that's just a Christly relics. With saints, it's even more ridiculous. It's my job to confirm the provenance of the relics we hold here, and I'm not holding my breath for any of them. Well, what else do you keep in here? There's this fellow, for starters. She tapped the breastplate of a suit of armor on display in the corner of the little room. My heart leapt into my throat. The glint of metal was all too familiar. Well, what is that? I suppose you wouldn't know what it is, would you? Oh, no. I know a suit of armor when I see one. I was just curious if this one holds any particular significance. We've been holding it for safekeeping for the Receiver General of some well-to-do estate. What's a Receiver General? A well-paid bookkeeper. Oh. I hazarded another question that I hoped would sound casual. And you're the only one with a key to this room? What a responsibility. The Superior also has a key. She's got the keys for most things, I should think. That makes sense. In case one goes missing. Steady on. Maybe I have one in case hers goes missing. I glanced around at the piles of assorted bits and pieces scattered around the room. Of course. Anyway, that just about wraps up the tour, I think. Are you keeping the sword in here by any chance? I noticed it was gone from the courtyard. It was there yesterday morning and then gone after evening service. Eustace let out a ragged sigh and pinched the bridge of her nose. When she spoke, she had an unmistakable air of someone choosing her words very diplomatically. Yes, Hedwig, I am the keeper, Catherine's sword here. I'm keeping Catherine's sword here. I thought she meant to say I'm the keeper. The Superior asked me to move it. I'm sorry. Let's go. We both got work to do. She ushered me out of the little room, back into the library. I skulked to my new desk, well aware I've overstepped some boundary. Eustace sat at her own desk and began sifting through pieces of parchment. Occasionally, she would scribble something in the ledger. From the sound of it, she was taking some feelings out on paper. I tapped my own quill against the empty book in front of me. I hadn't the foggiest idea of what to write, but I needed to do something. I suppose the date was a good place to start as any. Excuse me, but what is the date today? It's the 11th of November. Thank you. Oh, fiddle. I wrote today's date, but I'm writing about yesterday. So cross it out. Right. Okay. The 10th of November. On the 10th of November. Well, a lot happened, didn't it? I felt the flash of inspiration when I thought of all things I could write about my life. What the Superior had forced me to do, how awkward I had felt being thrust into a double life. But I of course could not do that. I had to focus on the basics, which was harder than it sounded. How did Catherine like to write things? I do have my own work to do, Hedwig. I know, I'm not sure how best to write things down. Eustace kept scribbling something in her ledger, not answering. Could I take a look at her old chronicles, perhaps? No, you can't. Why? Because I don't have them anymore. Where are they? Why are you so intent on pestering me about Catherine? I started sniffling. I couldn't help it. I bit my lip and tried to control myself, but it was too late. Eustace kept writing in her ledger. It was so quiet I could hear a tear hitting the parchment on the desk in front of me. I wasn't trying to be a pest. Don't be so modest. You're quite good at it. I lurched out of my chair. The precarious pile of books on the desk wobbled, and I could hear glass shattering as I flounced away, sobbing uncontrollably. I fumbled my way deeper into the library. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to get away. You know, the majority of these nuns could at the very least understand that she was stuck in one room for God knows how long. I believe it was already over a year or so, or maybe even more. But she hasn't really seen outside of that room, so she hasn't had much time to socialize. She's not used to talking to people, and the fact that she's curious about certain things and people get irritated at her for it, it's aggravating. Now, granted, I know that Catherine was murdered, and maybe, just maybe, Eustace is a suspicious character that's preventing her from knowing the truth. But you could do things a little nicer, you know? You can handle it better, is what I'm trying to say. Hedwig! Hedwig! Come back! I could hear her calling after me, but I didn't listen. I ran to a rows of shelves, not paying any attention to where I was going. Even if I had been, it would have been hard to see. I was bawling by that point, even if it had been, it would have been hard to see. I was bawling by that point, with my eyes scrunched up and full of tears. I stumbled around blindly. A few books fell off their shelves as I brushed past. I found a corner in one of the aisles and fell to a crouch, curling into a little ball and burying my head between my knobby knees. It was all coming out. The embarrassment, the shame, the anger, and the fear. I'm not sure it was even Eustace's snippy comment that really did me in. Eustace was far less intimidating than a disappearing swordsman, but nevertheless, here I was. It really was quite dark back here. I couldn't tell how far I had gotten into the bookshelves. The library had no windows. All light emanated from a simple chandelier above the desk and table. I tried to dry my face with my robe. It didn't do much considering I was still crying. I felt quite pathetic. For a little while, I bumped around in the dark, hoping to just stay out of Eustace's earshot. It wasn't long until I staggered into one of the shelves, though, sending books cascading onto my head like a hail. I yelped in surprise. Hedwig! I looked up to see Eustace standing above me. She looked quite worried. I'm really sorry, Hedwig. Will you come back to your desk? Eustace crouched down next to me and took my hands in hers. She squeezed them gently. I shouldn't have been so rude to you just then. It's not your fault. It's okay. I understand. Let's go and talk about it at our desk, yeah? No, you don't understand. No one does. No one can. You're inquisitive because you've never been outside your cell before. It's really not your fault. See? You finally get it. I'm having a hard time with losing Catherine. I don't know how to handle questions about her. It's not just that. What else is there? I looked up at Eustace's face. It was hard in the dark, but I could make out a wary attempt at a reassuring smile flickering on her lips. Nothing that I'd do to say now, I suppose. I'm all over the place, just in total. Eustace's smile grew, but she looked altogether sadder. She reached out to adjust my messy cowl, then stood up, guiding me back to a standing position with her hand. Come on, up you go. Let's go back, yeah? I nodded, still sniffling. I really am sorry. I was being quite cruel. It's alright. Don't keep apologizing. You sound just like me. I laughed feebly at my own joke. I just wanted to show that there weren't any hard feelings, even if it was far too early to really know that. Eustace patted me on the shoulder and sat me down in my chair, then adjusted some of the wobbly books back in a slightly less precarious position. That sword killed her, you know. That's why I was a bit touchy. Yes, the superior told me as much. I was just curious because... why was the sword left out there? In the cloister, I mean. It seems so dangerous to leave that sort of thing around. especially when I had just been used to... I can see why you'd find it strange, but I think there's a good object lesson for you here. You're not wrong that it's a little odd to leave a sword lying around, but that's because you're an outsider. Listen. Eustace's voice had returned to its usual monotone register. Once we'd gotten back to the desk, she reached out sharply to tilt my chin up without a shred of the tenderness she'd used amidst the bookshelves. Inside and outside aren't value judgments. We're all outsiders to someone. I dare say we both feel out of place in Persia. I see. You're saying I didn't know the customs. Something like that. It might be something even hard to define than customs. History, perhaps. I didn't expect to feel this alone. We're all Catholic after all. I think one of the first things you'll pick up on is how little that matters. I think I'm already there. Halfway at least. I'm sure you had a very specific idea of what life was like for us when you were in your cell that is being challenged by reality. Yes, that's a good way to put it. Yet you're completely correct. Everyone here is Catholic. We're all oblates. And yet, after only one full day, I've heard cursing, filthy jokes, and downright meanness from the mouths of my sisters. I flushed a little. Not to drag our fight out, I do accept your apology. That's alright. You're not wrong, but that also doesn't make anyone here less Catholic. Oh man, that organ. Well, it certainly seems like not many people here are holding to the letter. That doesn't matter. Doesn't it? No, I don't think it does. The church encompasses the world so wholly, it's very hard to not be a part of it to some degree. I'm not sure I understand. Do you like money? Truth told, I've never held any money. Bad example then, perhaps. No, try to explain. You at least understand the concept of money, right? Of course. Do you think money is fair? I think money certainly creates an opportunity for unfairness, so in that sense, I think I'd say it's quite a bad thing. Wow, okay. That's further than I was expecting you to go, actually. Well, that certainly happens a lot in the Bible, in fact. Eustace held up her hands and chuckled softly. No need to quote Ecclesiastes to me. I understand how you got there. I was going to quote Matthew, actually. 1924? No, 624. Actually, that's a great way to illustrate my point. Ye be not able to serve God in riches. Mammon. Mammon is riches. Yes, I suppose. A demon of riches. You think Mammon is a being? You don't think it's a metaphor? What's the difference? Good answer, actually. Anyway, we both agree then that you cannot worship money and God. Of course. But we are nuns. We tend to the poor theoretically, at least. Would it be wrong for the poor to covet money? Covet, I think, is a strong word, but they are poor. Poor exist because rich exist because poor exists. They're opposite ends of the spectrum that governs their day-to-day lives. How could a poor person not covet money? Food, clothes, shelter. Things provided by lords who have a lot of money, which is provided to them by kings who have even more money. So, you're saying that everyone worships riches? Nobody's truly Catholic? No, I'm saying that money is as essential as air is to people who want to live in this world. And when money is scarce, the church provides for them. We provide for them by extension. You know money is evil. You understand the inequality money inherently causes and the ways in which the Bible describes this. Yet, if you were to leave tomorrow, if you struck out on your own to live a life in London or what have you, how would you without money? Who would ever provide for you but the church? I'm afraid I don't quite understand. The church is air. If nobody here was Catholic, none of them could breathe. I didn't really know what to make of this. Eustace had certainly practiced this expression of her worldview, but I didn't fully understand what she was talking about. Partially because I was still slightly dazed and over-emotional, but more because it sounded very convenient. No, I actually get it. That's a perfect, display of what money means to people. Outside of, Hedwig's purview. This is a very dim view of the church and faith. Does that make sense? I understand what you're trying to say at least. Well, I'm glad I did it some justice at least. Catherine's version was a lot clearer. That was something Catherine said? Paraphrase, but more or less. Catherine could talk about 3 times longer than I could on the subject. Most subjects, to tell you the truth. I tend to ramble. I'll have to think about all this. That is the most interesting opinion for an Abbey chronicler to hold. Eustace had turned to walk back to her own desk. Like I've already told you, Catherine was a very interesting person. I should have liked to have met her. She sat back at her desk and began working in her ledger again. The same old Eustace had fully returned. It's a shame her chronicles are gone. I could learn a lot from them, it sounds like. I picked up my quill and began writing. This conversation had certainly been illuminating, inspiring even, although not in the sense that I wanted to write like Catherine. To tell you the truth, I couldn't believe Eustace was relaying whatever Catherine's opinion had been fairly. It certainly did nothing to shake the idea that I was in the midst of a group of Sarabates rather than Benedictines. So I felt that, for now, I should chronicle things in an uplifting and holy manner as I could. I would log the daily activities, the liturgies, meal times, and so on, and I would highlight the godly deeds I witnessed throughout the day. I reasoned that this would be healthier than listing the decidedly ungodly things I notice. I would search for the positive, as it were. Are there any letters I need to transcribe in here today? Not today, no. Does much mail come through here? Loads. Who for? Eustace peered at me over her glasses witheringly. Most everyone, I should think. There isn't much else to do here. Who writes the most? You're being nosy. I'm just curious. You never know who has a gift for writing. It's Catherine, if I had to guess. She's very popular. Really now? How interesting. I suppose. There's no accounting for taste. A thought crossed my mind. Are you sure there's nothing I could help with? Are there any letters that Catherine II was supposed to sort? I could take a look. If there were, there are not. Really? I already taken care of any unopened mail in Catherine's possession. I see. In that case, I think I might be finished. Eustace rose from her chair and walked over to mine. She leaned over my shoulder, holding her spectacles against the bridge of her nose. She read aloud. 10th November of the year of our Lord, 1482. The hours were observed in the morning and evening liturgies. Luncheon was held in the rectory, as was supper. We actually had breakfast as well, but I suppose you weren't there for that. Breakfast before liturgy? Sometimes. Vacant position of dearly beloved chronicler fulfilled rest in peace. That's nice. By myself. A kindness was visited upon me by Sister Moira. What was that? Well, she prayed with me in the bathhouse when I was feeling lost. Well, if it mattered to you, is that all you're writing? For now, I think. I'll probably go a little longer as I find my footing. Fair enough. Catherine would fill a whole page that much, I can tell you. A full page each day? Yes, sometimes more. You don't have to do it that way, of course, but you were asking about what her writing was like. No, that was very helpful. Well, what now? I have work to do still. You can do as you please. I think I might walk around and check in on some of the others. I can fill up pages hearing what others are accomplishing. Not a bad idea. I stood up to leave. Before I could step away, however, Eustace gripped me by the shoulders. She looked into my eyes with a gaze even more serious than the one she'd used in the garden. I need you to promise me something, Hedwig. Yes? Never go wandering around back there on your own. Can you do that for me? Back into the bookshelves. Not without me. I don't understand. She squeezed my shoulders even tighter. You can borrow anything you want from the library, of course, but I can't have you going back there without my assistance. Or better yet, just to ask me to get what you need for you. I'm like, why can't I read that? Or better yet, just ask me to get what you need for you. My organization system is precarious. Does that make sense? Not really. Some books are very, very important and very, very valuable. I'm sworn to protect them, and my organization system is, well, precarious, as you have seen. It'd be a weight off my mind if I didn't have to worry about anyone else rummaging around back there. Of course. I shan't touch anything. Thank you. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates... I can't read the whole thing. I will say I'm getting a lot of achievements. And I think we're still in chapter 2. Let me assure you, as the door closed behind me, I felt a flare of embarrassment. I was just treated like a total fool, I thought. I had half a mind to turn back around and tell Eustace stuff for sentimental stories about Catherine and show me the sword under a lock and key. I didn't, of course, and thank goodness for that, honestly. No, I won't explain what I mean just yet. Let me tell you something about that chronicler position. It might have taken a fair bit, but it did teach me a thing or two about spinning a good story. Anyway. The cool air of the hallway hit my face hard after being in the stuffy library for so long. I could feel the damp patches around my eyes and cheeks where my tears had been drying. I wiped my face with my sleeve to try and erase any lingering evidence. Oh, fancy running into you here. Moira was standing just down the hall, carrying a tray adorned with a small pitcher and some sliced rye. I was just on my way to bring you and Eustace some luncheon. Lunch-in? Oh, of course, you wouldn't have had that before. It's just a snack between meals. Is that allowed? Allowed, of course. Wouldn't it be? I looked side to side nervously for what I'm not really sure. A disapproving superior? Or worse, Angela? Moira chuckled again and set the tray down on the stone railing, overlooking the cloister, and then gestured for me to join her. The little pitcher was full of wine, and there were pieces of crumbly cheese mixed in with the slices of bread. You can dip the bread in wine if you like. Dip the... Alright. I picked up a piece of bread and dunked it into the pitcher. The wine turned into quite an odd color that reminded me a bit of bile on the flagstone, but I resisted lingering on it too long and popped it into my mouth. That's quite nice, actually. It's called sops. Everyone here loves it more or less. And the cheese? Goat cheese, from one of the ones Darcy takes care of. I tried a piece. It was also delicious. This might be a silly question. All this food, is it different from what I was served? I took all my meals in myself, but I don't remember any of it tasting quite this, well, good. Well, we do a lot of cooking with ingredients from the stores and the pantry, and we have to make things last. Maybe you just got unlucky most of the time. Things don't always taste this fresh. Or maybe, well... Oh, nothing. I was just thinking that maybe it tastes so much better because you're not in your cell anymore. I don't understand. Moira took a piece of cheese and chewed it thoughtfully. A new lease on life and all that. Nothing tastes better than freedom. My first instinct was to chide Moira for this comment, but I resisted. Instead, I chose to act the part and say something I imagined someone who belonged in this group of women might say. I would imagine Catherine disagrees that we're free up here. And I suppose by that logic, eating outside the monastery would taste even better. I was actually going to say that a king's food must taste impossibly good. I was on my way to that conclusion as well, although I think we might have been approaching it from different angles. But I like the way you think. We should plan a picnic sometime, you and me. We should propose it to the superior. That's a lovely idea. Moira clasped my hands in hers and beamed. Oh, what fun it is. Oh, what fun it always is to have someone new here. She let me go and lifted up the tray again. I must be getting the rest of this to Eustace. Where are you off to next, Busy Bee? I am not sure, actually. I felt like I should sort of make the rounds, so to speak, get to know what everyone does around here. Oh, grand. Darcy and Charity are busy in the kitchen right now, I think, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind you poking your head in. I'm sure someone's in the cellars around now if you want to learn about the wine. Oh, so many options. Go forth and explore, I say. Explore I shall. I smiled and bowed my head and then excused myself to head downstairs. I selfishly opted against bothering the cooks while they were busy with something I'd be eating later, and instead headed towards the stairs. I made my way down to the cloister and to the downstairs hall. I decided I might poke my head into the undercroft. Well, look who it is. Hello, Hedwig. Hello. Done with the chronicling already? Yes, actually. Well, there wasn't much to write about yesterday, really. Wasn't there? Did you make sure to immortalize your grand prank? No? Really now? I'm surprised. I would have thought that was the whole point. Yes, how else will anyone know it happened? Well, I mostly wrote about important things, the services, the meals, and so on. Those are the important things, huh? Give yourself a little credit, Hedwig. I'll add it in tomorrow, perhaps. You should. Otherwise, we'll all forget about it eventually. Or pretend we forgot about it. That's right. In war, one must keep score, or so Adela keeps telling me. War? Relax, we are definitely not planning a counterattack to your door prank. Yes, we've just been discussing faith and whatnot. The Nicene Creed and its many subtleties. Oh, how interesting. Which ones? Which subtleties? Filioque? Ah, that's... I suppose I wouldn't count that as subtlety. That would be my contribution. Why, no... Ow! I couldn't agree more, Hedwig. I have a habit of understanding things. For effect, you understand. Naturally. The pair smiled at me. I could sense they were very politely ushering me onward so they could continue whatever conversation they actually been having. I decided to press a little further, however. What have you two been up to today? I decided I'd see what the other work around here is like, since I finished so early. Ah, well, there isn't exactly much almoning to do up in this hill, so I've been helping out with the cellars. Oh, what have you been doing? Catherine and Margaret exchanged a glance. This, more or less. Not to sound like our dear friend Eustace, but that's a euphemism. Well, not entirely. If something needs lifting, don't shout. That being Marta and Flora? Typically, yes. But more often than not around here, helping in the cellars really just means, well, nothing. Standing around, gossiping, wandering around the cloister for a bit. And the Superior doesn't mind this? Now, steady on. We wouldn't be telling you this if we thought you'd blabber on to her about it. I won't. I was just worried you might get in trouble. It's never really been much of an issue. Soup can't be everywhere. Now let's keep it that way, Of course. Lovely. I know you can be trusted. I've always said I had a good feeling about her, haven't I, Catherine? That's right, she has. Yeah, okay. I couldn't help but be filled with a gush of pride at that remark, but did my utmost to tamp it down. Well then, I'll just leave you to do your important work, shall I? Until next time. See you at luncheon, Hedwig. I parted with a gracious smile and walked toward the corridor of barrels I had found Adela and Flora on the day before. Marta was standing next to an open cask. She was holding a wooden ladle, looking thoughtful. Ah, Hedwig. Finished upstairs already? Yes, I am. I felt it'd be nice to get to know everyone's jobs a little better. Smart girl. Flora could learn a thing or two from you. I heard that. Flora's voice echoed from deep within the rows of barrels. Good. I have her check inventory sometimes, especially if she's been acting up. I see. The barrel opened in front of Marta. Smelled absolutely putrid. Nonetheless, she dipped her ladle into the dark liquid and raised it to her lips, sipping gently and furrowing her brow thoughtfully. Is it supposed to smell like that? Truth be told, I haven't a clue. This is a slightly different kind of wine than I'm used to. I must confess, I did not know there were different kinds. It's sherry. Adela pestered me to try making it in a moment she arrived at the Abbey. Goodness, she must be very particular. I'll say popular. She has expensive taste, yes. We had to get a fancy new distiller set up in the workshop just to try making it. The Abbey could afford that. I was just talking to Eustace about her acquisition budget. I try not to think about money most of the time, to tell you the truth, but I've heard the Superior has access to more than you expect. I suppose I wouldn't really know what to expect. Isn't that wrong, though? If it is true, it would certainly mean this Abbey is stuck in a uniquely unfortunate position of having a lot of charity to give and no one to give it to. I'd urge you to quell any Cistercian tendencies. I'm not sure the church could withstand another order fracturing. Martha took another whiff of the unfinished wine on her spoon. She wrinkled her nose and emptied the spoon back into the barrel. Anyhow, there is little use in speculating on speculations. We have a distiller and all I need to worry about is making sure my sherry isn't a disaster. Would you be a dear and find Adela? I need her to tell me if I'm on the right track with this.